The creature rose slowly, deliberately, as if testing the weight of the world after centuries of slumber. Elias's breath caught in his throat, his fingers tightening around the grip of his sidearm, a pathetic defense against something that dwarfed the crashed scout ship behind him. The being was colossal, easily 30 meters tall, with a body that seemed to shift between insectoid and something more ancient, more fundamental. Its carapace bore strange symbols etched into the chitinous surface, markings that seemed to pulse with a faint inner light that matched the rhythm of the creature's breathing. For a long moment neither moved. Elias stood frozen, a speck of humanity before a titan of an alien world. The creature's multiple eyes, he counted at least 12, focused on him, with an intensity that made his skin crawl. But there was something in that gaze that wasn't quite predatory. It was curious, analytical, the same way a scientist might study a specimen under glass. The creature emitted a low, thrumming sound that resonated in Elias's chest cavity. It wasn't threatening, not exactly. It was almost conversational. The sound modulated, shifted in pitch and frequency, and Elias realized with dawning wonder that it was trying to communicate. His hand slowly lowered from his weapon. What was the point? If this being wanted him dead, he'd already be nothing more than a smear on the parched earth. I don't understand you, Elias said, his voice hoarse from disuse and the toxic air. Disappeared into the cracked earth. It wasn't just emerging from below. It was part of the planet itself, a living extension of Xylos. The creature extended one of its limbs, a segmented appendage that ended in delicate, almost graceful manipulators. The movement was slow, non-threatening, and Elias found himself taking a tentative step forward rather than back. The appendage touched the ground between them, and where it made contact, the earth began to change. Cracks sealed themselves, and a faint shimmer of moisture appeared on the surface. Small shoots of vegetation, unlike anything from Earth or the colony's seed banks, began to push through the rejuvenated soil. Elias dropped to his knees, pulling off his glove with trembling fingers. He pressed his hand against the new growth, feeling the coolness of actual moisture for the first time in months. Tears welled in his eyes, stinging in the acrid air. "How?" he whispered. "How is this possible?" The creature's thrumming changed again, and this time, impossibly, Elias began to understand fragments of meaning. Not words, exactly, but concepts that bloomed in his mind like the vegetation at his feet. Images flooded his consciousness, the planet as it once was, teeming with life, a complex ecosystem of beings like this one, living in harmony with the world they'd shaped over millennia. Then came the arrival of the colony ships, the terraforming equipment, the wholesale destruction of systems that had taken eons to develop. The native life hadn't been hostile. It had simply retreated, withdrawn into dormancy to escape the catastrophic changes humans were forcing upon their world. "We didn't know," Elias said, understanding washing over him like cold water. "We surveyed the planet. There was no intelligent life detected. No signs of civilization." More images came, and with them a profound sadness that wasn't his own. The native life of Xylos didn't build in the way humans understood. They didn't construct cities of metal and stone. They were the planet itself, woven into its very fabric. Their consciousness distributed across vast networks of organic matter deep beneath the surface. The colony's terraforming hadn't just been an ecological disaster. It had been an act of violence against a living, thinking world. Of Xylos didn't build in the way humans understood. They didn't construct cities of metal and stone. They were the planet itself, woven into its very fabric. Their consciousness distributed across vast networks of organic matter deep beneath the surface. The colony's terraforming hadn't just been an ecological disaster. It had been an act of violence against a living, thinking world. The atmospheric processors had failed, Elias now understood, because the planet had fought back. Not with aggression, but with the simple act of existing, of trying to restore its natural balance. The colonists had been fighting a war they didn't even know they were in, battling the planet's immune system while thinking they were just dealing with equipment malfunctions and unexplained environmental phenomena. "My crew," Elias said, his voice breaking. "The others. Did you?" The creature's response was gentle but clear. The colonists had not been killed, not deliberately. They had simply succumbed to a world that was trying to heal itself, unable to adapt to the rapid changes as Xylos's native systems reasserted themselves. Some had evacuated in the early days when ships could still launch. Others had perished in accidents as the infrastructure failed. A few, like Elias, had held on longer, but he was the last. The very last. Sarah, he said, clutching the locket tighter. She was on the second wave of colonists. Her ship never arrived. We thought, pirates, maybe, or a navigational error? But you would know, wouldn't you? You would know if she made it to Xylos. Others had perished in accidents as the infrastructure failed. A few, like Elias, had held on longer, but he was the last. The very last. Sarah, he said, clutching the locket tighter. She was on the second wave of colonists. Her ship never arrived. We thought, pirates, maybe, or a navigational error? But you would know, wouldn't you? You would know if she made it to Xylos. The creature's silence was answer enough. The second wave had never arrived. Whatever fate had befallen those ships, it had nothing to do with this world. Sarah was gone, lost somewhere in the vast emptiness between the stars. The hope he'd been clinging to, the fragile thread that had kept him fighting day after day, snapped. Elias felt something break. Inside him, a dam giving way to a flood of grief he'd been holding back for so long. He wept there in the dust, while the ancient being watched in what might have been sympathy. When his tears finally subsided, leaving him hollow and exhausted, Elias looked up at the creature with new understanding. "What do you want from me?" The thrumming response was complex, layered with multiple meanings. Witness. Remember, carry forward. The creature showed him more images Xylos as it could be, restored to its former glory, but not as it was before humanity arrived. Something new, a synthesis. The planet's consciousness had been wounded by the human presence, yes, but it had also learned. It had experienced something novel, something it had never known in all its eons of existence. The concept of reaching for the stars, of dreaming beyond one's own world. The creature was offering him a choice. He could stay, could become part of Xylos as the colonists had never intended. The native life would sustain him, integrate him into its systems, allow him to live as part of the planetary consciousness. He would never be alone again, would never suffer hunger or thirst, or the crushing isolation of being the last of his kind. But he would cease to be entirely human.